Before kings ruled, before temples rose, and before prophets spoke, Jerusalem was already a city of power. Long before David conquered it, this sacred city was fought over, built upon, and whispered about in the shadows of empires. It wasn't always the capital of kingdoms or the heart of holy wars. At first, Jerusalem was just a small hilltop stronghold, but it held something no one could quite define: significance. Something about this place drew people in. Was it the land, the spring, or something older, something lost? What made this rocky hilltop so important, even before it became a kingdom's capital? And how did a small Canaanite settlement become the center of the world's greatest religions? Let's travel way back to the time before the kings. What made this rocky hilltop so important, even before it became a kingdom's capital? And how did a small Canaanite settlement become the center of the world's greatest religions? Let's travel way back to the time before the kings. Canaanite origins, 3000 BC. The earliest roots of Jerusalem stretch back over 5,000 years to around 3000 BC, during the early Bronze Age. At this time, what would one day become the most contested city on earth was just a modest Canaanite hilltop settlement. But even then, it held strategic promise. Archaeological excavations near the Gihon Spring, Jerusalem's only natural water source, have revealed fortified walls, storage silos, and early burial sites, suggesting that this small outpost had some form of governance and a settled community life. It wasn't just a random camp, it was a place with structure, planning, and perhaps even ritual importance. Its location, perched between the Kidron and Hinnom valleys, offered a natural defense, making it easier to protect against raiders or rival tribes. More importantly, its position lay along early trade routes connecting Egypt and Mesopotamia, allowing goods, culture, and people to pass through. This made the site not only valuable but exposed to regional power struggles. The people here worshipped Canaanite gods, likely including El, Baal, and Shalem, a deity associated with twilight or peace. The spiritual character of the land may have been evident even in these earliest times. Was Jerusalem always destined to be sacred? Or did the events that followed cast that meaning backward in time? By 2500 BC, the settlement was growing in both size and complexity. Homes were built with stone foundations, pottery styles evolved, a distinct identity was forming, one that would soon draw the attention of foreign kings and invading armies: Jebusite rule. By the second millennium BC, the small settlement of Jerusalem had evolved into a more organized and fortified town. During this period, it came under the control of the Jebusites, a Canaanite people whose rule over the region would last for several centuries. These inhabitants referred to the city as Jerusalem or Rushalimim, a name that likely combined a local deity, Shalom, with the root for foundation or city. Thus, Jerusalem may have originally meant the city of Shalom, the god of dusk or peace. The Jebusites expanded the city's defenses, likely reinforcing the steep ridges with stone fortifications and building protective towers. They also harnessed the waters of the Gihon Spring, carving underground channels and tunnels to secure water access during times of siege. Some of these ancient waterworks, like Warren's Shaft, survive to this day, bearing witness to the Jebusite era's engineering skill. They were not an empire, but the Jebusites were resourceful and politically savvy. Their strategic location made them influential in the region, and their city became a buffer zone between powerful rivals, such as Egypt and Mesopotamian city-states. This is evident in the Amarna letters, 14th century BC diplomatic texts in which a ruler of Jerusalem, possibly a Jebusite king named Abdi-Heba, pleads with the Egyptian pharaoh for military assistance against encroaching enemies. These letters offer a rare glimpse into the politics of Canaan before the Israelites arrived. Though they maintained control for centuries, the Jebusites were not unchallenged. Their city was often under pressure from surrounding tribes and internal unrest. Still, they endured, building, worshiping, and defending a city that would one day be considered holy. And then came a king who would change everything: conquest by David. Around 1000 BC, a turning point came in Jerusalem's long history. The tribes of Israel, long fractured and led by judges, had unified under a king, David, a former shepherd, warrior, and poet. Seeking a neutral and strategic capital to unify the northern and southern tribes, David looked to Jerusalem. At that time, the city was still under Jebusite control, independent and not part of any tribal territory. The Jebusites believed their city was impossible to conquer. With its high ridges and fortified walls, they scoffed at David's army. According to biblical texts, they even mocked, saying, "Even the blind and the lame can ward you off." But David had a plan. He discovered a secret water shaft, likely the underground tunnel connected to the Gihon spring. Under cover of darkness, his men climbed the shaft, entered the city, and opened the gates from within. It was a brilliant tactical move. Instead of destroying the city, David claimed it as his capital, establishing what became known as the City of David on the southeastern ridge. He built a royal palace, fortified the walls, and brought the sacred Ark of the Covenant into the city with great ceremony. This act made Jerusalem both the political and religious center of the new United Kingdom. David also began early preparations for a temple. Though he would never build it himself, his conquest marked the beginning of Jerusalem's transformation from a Canaanite stronghold to the spiritual heart of a people, forever linking it to the destiny of Israel. And though David conquered the city by force, he preserved much of its structure, layering his legacy atop ancient stone just as every future ruler would. Solomon and the First Temple. After David's death, his son Solomon ascended to the throne and inherited a growing and powerful kingdom. Known for his wisdom, wealth, and ambition, Solomon sought to elevate Jerusalem beyond a royal city. He wanted it to become the spiritual center of his people. His crowning achievement? The construction of the first temple on Mount Moriah, a site with deep religious significance. Solomon organized a massive construction project that drew on materials from across the ancient world. He imported cedar and cypress wood from Lebanon, quarried fine stones, and overlaid the inner sanctuary with pure gold. Tens of thousands of workers labored for years to complete it. The result was a structure both grand and symbolic, a house not just for worship, but for national identity. The temple was divided into sections: the outer court, the holy place, and the Holy of Holies, which housed the Ark of the Covenant. Only the high priest could enter the inner sanctuary, and only once a year, on Yom Kippur. This separation underscored the sacredness of the space and the presence of the divine within. The dedication of the temple was marked by a massive public ceremony. Sacrifices were made, prayers offered, and Solomon stood before the people to declare the covenant between God and Israel renewed. The temple became the beating heart of Jerusalem, a place where heaven and earth were believed to meet. Solomon's temple wasn't just a building. It represented the fulfillment of promises, the permanence of faith, and the power of Jerusalem as the center of a kingdom and a belief system. And though the temple would eventually be destroyed, its memory would shape centuries of devotion, longing, and conflict. Jerusalem's eternal struggle. Jerusalem stood proud. The city of David had become the city of God. The first temple shone under the sun, a symbol of faith, power, and unity. But that brilliance would not last forever. Behind its walls, tension grew. Neighboring kingdoms watched closely. Prophets warned of judgment. What had been built with gold and promise would soon face destruction and exile, because the same mountain that saw the temple rise would also witness its fall. In the next episode, the rise of empires, the invasions of Babylon and Rome, and the two destructions that changed Jerusalem and the world forever. Enjoying the journey through history? Make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our community of history enthusiasts. Don't forget to leave a comment below. Tell us what you think, share your favorite historical insights, or suggest a topic you'd love to see us explore. And if you know someone who would love diving into the past, share this video with them. Let's uncover history together.